All right, so it's time for the May book haul. And I've got a really good book haul this month. Not only do I have some really hard to find, even invaluable books, but I have a lot of good quality books with good writing, books that I want to read soon. And so when I get to some of those, I'll mention that I'm kind of wanting to read some of these in the next few months. So another thing to note, mostly I do mass market paperbacks, but I have a few hardbacks that I've collected over the months. So I'm going to go through the first, however many are going to be different format, and then we're going to get into all of the kind of vintage mass market paperbacks. So the first book I've got here is The Rediscovery of Man. This is the complete short science fiction of Cordwainer Smith. And if you've watched this channel, you've probably heard me talk about Nefsa Press. And this is one from them. So these are really great. If you ever find these in the wild, you can still go onto their website and buy a lot of these books too. But they've kind of reprinted things that have gone off into obscurity. This has, I think, it's the complete short fiction of Cordwainer Smith. And most of these stories kind of all fit into his Instrumentality of Man series. And so some point in the future, I'm definitely going to go through and do the whole Cordwainer Smith catalog and kind of read through everything. Okay, the next one I've got is The Best of R.A. Lafferty. And this is a Tor, more modern book. It's hardback, but there's like no dust jacket. And been kind of trying to get a bunch of different best of classic science fiction authors. You know, Ballantine did a line of them. Popular Library, I think, did another one, or maybe it was Pocket Books. And I saw this one, so I couldn't really refuse there. Okay, we got Clifford Simic, Strangers in the Universe. And this is an old vintage hardback that's in really good condition. And this is a book club edition. It's kind of got the rough cut pages there. I found this for a really good deal, so I couldn't pass it up, because normally I'm not really collecting hardbacks, but I do love myself a good old science fiction book club edition. Okay, now this next one is one that I'm going to be reading soon, probably in June. This is the Hopkins manuscript by R.C. Sheriff. And this is another hardback book club edition that I got at one of our local bookstores. And I paid $10 for it, but it was better than the copy I have. It's got kind of the painted top and the rough cut edges. Pretty nice book there. So that's one I want to read very soon. A couple others that I'm going to be reading soon. We got Kate Wilhelm, Where Late the Sweet Birds Sang. I do have a mass market paperback of this one, but I found this old book club and couldn't pass it up. The Listeners by James Gunn. These last two, the Kate Wilhelm and this one, are both in this series that I'm doing. And so I'm going to be reading both of these soon. And then the last one I got, there was someone on eBay selling a lot of Norman Spinrad books, and one of them happened to be a hardback. And so I got Songs from the Stars, and this is a Simon & Schuster, hardcover, hardback. It's not a book club. It's got the price and the dust jacket. It's the first true printing, and it's also signed by Spinrad. So don't really collect a lot of signed books or anything. I was actually looking for the paperbacks that came in the lot. I wanted those more than the hardback, but they threw in a hardback that was signed by the man himself, so I couldn't refuse. Okay, now we're going to get into some mass market paperbacks. I got 4 Daw Yellow Spines here. Don't know much about these, but the covers are cool. The first one is The Day Star by Mark S. Geston. And we've got here guy shooting some sort of alien. There's something else going on down here. Really great cover there. Got John Rackman, Beanstalk. This one looks kind of interesting. Don't know exactly what's going on here, but might have to put that on the TBR. Gordon Eklund, All Possible Times. Kind of a neat cover here. I've never really read anything from Gordon Eklund. I know he's co-written some stuff, but that cover alone is pretty cool. And then A. Bertram Chandler, Matilda's Stepchildren. And this says it's John Grimes. It's science fiction's answer to Horatio Hornblower. So, maybe some ship navigating, some stuff like that. I don't know. I'm not sure I'm going to read this one, but it's got a really good cover. So now Jack L. Chalker. He's one that I have not read anything from. I think this is one of his most well-known books. It's Echoes of the Well of Souls. I know it's a series too, but I don't know if anyone's read this, if this could be read as a standalone, if this is maybe a good place to start with Jack Chalker, let me know. Don't know much about him. Now here's an author I've been wanting to read a couple books from, actually. It's Richard C. Meredith, At the Narrow Passage. And this one looks cool, but there's a couple others of his books that I want to read. I can't remember the names of them offhand, but two of his more well-known books. I'm on the hunt for them, trying to find them, and then really want to read those soon too. Then I picked up a edition of a book I already have. This is Second Foundation by Isaac Asimov. This is an Avon. I believe this is the first paperback edition that came out of this for this one. Maybe, maybe not. It was issued at 50 cents, and I kind of like some of these alternate covers. Okay, and then we got Keith Roberts' Pavane. I've heard people talk about this. Outlaw Bookseller talked about this. This is kind of, I think, an alternative history book and one of the first really good examples of it, maybe. So that's definitely going to be read maybe in the next few months. I don't know if I'll be able to get to it right away. Peter F. Hamilton, Pandora's Star. I know this is kind of a duology. This was a perfect condition mass market paperback I found locally, so I grabbed that. I know between the two books it's about 2,000 pages. Definitely want to read it at some point, but it might be years till I get to that one. And then On My Way to Paradise. This is Dave Wolverton. I know he's done a lot of editing and whatnot, but this was another perfect condition mass market paperback from Spectra. Spectra Bantam. And it has some pretty good reviews. It's got an interesting cover there with our aliens. But yeah, and it's a bit on the long side. It's about 500 pages, but I'm going to put that on the shelves, and maybe at some point in the future I'll have to get to that one. Okay, now we're getting to some really good books here. So, not long ago I read Dying Inside by Robert Silverberg, and Outlaw Bookseller recommended this book, The Journal of Nicholas the American by Lee Kennedy. And the premise of it's really interesting. I'm very excited to read this soon. It was kind of a hard book to find, but I did find an individual bookseller that had this and wasn't charging too much for shipping, so I picked that up. Really excited to read that. The Wizard of Earthsea by Ursula K. Le Guin. I have another copy of this, but this was in the Ace Science Fiction special format. And I really never had much. I've read plenty of Ursula's science fiction. I never really wanted to read the Wizard of Earthsea, but after watching Richard over at Vintage SF talk about it, kind of made me want to give it a shot. So we'll see, maybe at some point. The Heaven Makers by Frank Herbert. Real creepy cover on this one. This is an Avon science fiction. The book is a little rough, but overall not bad. The Secret of the Ninth Planet by Donald A. Wollheim. And this, yeah, so Donald, Daw Books, Donald A. Wollheim, there's a lot of editing he did, a lot in the industry, but apparently this is one of his actual novels. Yeah, I don't think it's short stories, so who knows, maybe someday. Zena Henderson's Pilgrimage. Now I know there's been a little bit of talk of Zena Henderson recently, and I think this is her most well-known novel. And so this is probably where I'll start with her. I don't know when I'll get to that one, but maybe this year. And I got Ring World by Larry Niven. Now, this livery of Niven books, there's a bunch of books that have this same kind of art style, and I had all of them except for this one, so I finally found a really clean copy. I had passed up a couple kind of beat up copies of this book. I know it comes in some different colors depending on the printing you got, but finally got that, so I'm pretty happy with that. The Day the Sun Stood Still. This is 3 novellas by Paul Anderson, Gordon R. Dickson, and Robert Silverberg, and it even has a foreword by Lester Del Rey. So really cool authors, 3 novellas kind of packed together, really cool artwork on the cover. And this one is a Dell science fiction. So got that. And then The Space Merchants. This is Frederick Pohl and C.M. Kornbluth. I believe I have a book club hardback of this one, but now I've got a mass market paperback of it. Now here was one of my, probably the book of the year for me last year, Earth Abides by George R. Stewart. I really love this book, and I have a newer trade paperback, reprint of this. So I got this Fawcett Crest mass market paperback, so I can kind of put it on my shelves here. I know there are some, this came out a little bit more recently. I know there's better, more vintage copies of this one, but for now this will be my stand-in. I Sing the Body Electric by Ray Bradbury. Ray Bradbury was one of the first science fiction authors I got into. It's been a long time, really, since I dug into his stuff. I'd like to collect it all, everything I've read of his, but that was a really clean copy I found. I couldn't pass that one up. I say that a lot. Now we got 2 from Clifford D. Simic. We got Shakespeare's Planet. This is Berkeley science fiction. And the other one from Simic I got is The Goblin Reservation. I know he's written some kind of things that are a little bit more on the fantasy side, and this one looks like it might be. There's some really cool artwork on that one. This is another Berkeley science fiction as well. Okay, 2 more stacks. So like I mentioned, I've been collecting the best of from the Ballantine Classic Library, and I think it's 21. I was missing 4, so I got the final 4. So we got the Best of Fritz Leiber. This one is not in the best shape. Most of these that I've got are in immaculate condition, but there's a few that I just haven't been able to find in great shape. We got the Best of Eric Frank Russell. Really nice artwork, and this one is really good condition. The Best of Murray Leinster. Another one in good condition. I love all the artwork too. I might have to do a separate video just showing off all 21 in the series. We've read 3 of them now. We're getting ready to read the 4th one. This is The Best of Frederick Pohl. And when I mention we're reading it, it's Matt at Science Fiction Reads and Richard at Vintage SF. We've read 3 of these best of series from Ballantine and then done videos discussing some of the authors. So I have a playlist on my channel if you want to check that out. Okay, now I've got 6 books that are from the A Science Fiction line when they were kind of a little bit of a smaller format. I'll show you. Compared to a standard mass market paperback, you can see they're just a little shorter. and I've got 6 of them, so let's just go through these. Space Hounds of ICP by E. Doc Smith. Not sure I actually want to read this one. Maybe. Could be a bit on the pulpy side, which I'm fine with, but Earth's Last Citadel by C.L. Moore and Harry Kuttner, the husband and wife team. This one is short and looks kind of interesting. This one will probably get read sometime soon. Space Viking by H.B. Piper. Have never read anything from Piper, even though I've got a lot of his books now. The Einstein Intersection by Samuel R. Delany. This is a book I rated and reviewed on the channel in the Easton Press format. That was the only one I have. And now I have this really cool classic paperback of that copy. So that's going into my permanent collection. Roger Zelazny, This Immortal. This is another one I read. Really love this book. One of the best books that I've read recently. Still think about it. And I found this original 40-cent mass market from Ace. And that's definitely going on the bookshelf. And then the last one from this smaller Ace series, it's The Long Tomorrow by Lee Brackett. And I have an older reprint of this, but this is just really cool. And this book I'm probably going to read later this month. So I think I have time for my schedule to squeeze in one more book this month, and I think that's going to be it. So towards the end of the month, look for that. And okay, now we're on to the last stack here. We got John Christopher's No Blade of Grass. This was another one that Richard over at Vintage SF read recently. I think it has a different title too. I can't remember offhand, but kind of post-apocalyptic. He kind of said it was maybe a darker Earth Abides, which I really love. So really excited to read that soon, probably in the next couple months. And then I got this trilogy from Octavia Butler. This is the Xenogenesis series, and it's all 3 books in this aspect science fiction. So these were reprinted. Her books are really hard to find if you want to find original paperbacks. They have really cool covers. They're just really hard to find, and they're really expensive. So I kind of had to settle for this. The second book, Adulthood Rights. I've never read anything from her. I think I want to start here. Maybe someone can tell me if this is not a good place to start. But this trilogy looks awesome. I've got all the books now, and I really want to read this. Probably this year, maybe not in the next couple months, but that's definitely going on the list to try to get read this year. Then I got Harlan Ellison's Dangerous Visions. This is, I think, the first time it was put together in one single paperback. It was such a big book. I think it was split up over like 3 sections when it originally came out. And then they packed it into this. And it weighs a lot too. It's a heavy book. I've read this. This is kind of, I don't know, might be considered essential short story reading. But, you know, it's got some hits and misses in it. I don't know that it's cracked up to be what Ellison thought it was going to be, but it's still a great book. Now I got 3 from Robert Silverberg, A Time of Changes. This is the next Silverberg, I believe, that I'm going to be reading. And this is a signet. And this is another one. He's got a few books that have this livery with this kind of art style, and I've got a few of those now. And then there was a different livery here. This is Dying Inside. This is a book I really, really loved. I had a trade paperback, and now I have a really cool mass market paperback of this one with some really interesting artwork on the cover. So really happy with that. And then the final from Silverberg is the Book of Skulls. And this might be the following book that I read after A Time of Changes. And So got that, really happy with this copy. There's some really cool covers for this book, A Book of Skulls, and they can be kind of a little more on the expensive side and hard to find, but I got those pretty good. And then the final, the one I held out for the very end, we got Franz Werfel, Star of the Unborn. And this is a book probably no one had heard much about until Matt over at Bookpilled did a video, really raved about it. It's shot the price of the book way up. I was at my local bookstore that's about an hour away, and I found this on their shelves. I go there at least once a month, so I know they just got it. It was for sale for $9. It does have a little stamp across the top, but for this condition, couldn't go wrong. This book's probably worth somewhere between 100 and 150 bucks maybe if I wanted to sell it. But, you know, I never would have spent that much for it, but now that I found it and I got it, I'm probably going to read it at some point. I don't know if this is going to be a book that I'm into, but, you know, what the heck. It is long. It's like 600 pages. It's listed as a Bantam fantasy book, so I don't know if it's really science fiction or fantasy, and that doesn't bother me. I'll read either of that, but it's just, I don't know. It sounds like a interesting, challenging read, so maybe at some point I'll at least start in it and see how it goes. So that's it. It was a really good month. I got to get all these books on the shelf. Like I said, every time I do this, it kind of rearranges the books on my shelves, and then you get a different view on all my upcoming videos for a little while. So that's it. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you in the next video.